So good afternoon and welcome to another fireside chat here at the virtual Highways UK. My name's Olivia Cairns and I'm an environmental researcher here at TRL. I'll be providing a bit of an introduction before passing over to our technical experts for the debate. Along with the difficulties and disruption of this year, climate change remains one of the greatest challenges that we will face over the next decade. With transport the single biggest contributor to carbon emissions of any sector within the UK, it has a really integral role to play in achieving the target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. There's growing public interest into the health impacts of poor air quality, increasing concerns over energy security, and with changing travel behaviours or car ownership trends, stringent emissions regulations, decarbonisation is now central to the future of transport. To date, electricity looks as though it's going to dominate the market of green transportation. From the beginning of 2020, 25% of all vehicles that were registered were either battery electric, plug-in hybrid, or hybrid electric vehicles, which is representative of about 16% increase of the market share from 2019. Recently, it's been considered that hydrogen can play a really pivotal role in sectors such as rail and aviation. Hydrogen has a really similar refuel time to a conventional vehicle. It has a lower use of critical materials, and it also has a lower impact of vehicle payload, meaning that it's suitable for haulage over long distances. On behalf of TRL, the Transport Research Laboratory, we're really excited to bring to you today just a load of hot air, the potential of hydrogen. We have here today Tony Velazquez, who is our Head of Environment and Decarbonisation, and Doros Nicolaides, who is a Senior Consultant in Energy and ULEV Technologies. They'll be debating the value and feasibility of hydrogen versus battery electric vehicles. I'll now hand over to Tony, who can introduce himself.
Thank you, Olivia. As a Head of Environment and Decarbonisation at TRL, I deliver innovative solutions to mitigate the negative externalities of transportation systems for our clients. My background is on low carbon technologies and energy systems, and I've been very interested in hydrogen and fuel cells for a number of years since I work in academia and even before that. So hopefully by the end of this discussion, some of you will believe, as me, that hydrogen is not a lot of hot air.
Perfect, thanks Tony. And Doros?
Thank you both. Hello everybody. So my name is Doros. I am a senior consultant on low emission vehicles and energy at TRL. And my strong interest over the last few years has been road transport electrification. And I've been recently appointed as the English-speaking secretary for PIARC Task Force on Electric Roads, which is relevant to electrification and decarbonisation of heavy-duty vehicles on the roads of the UK. I agree that hydrogen has been considered over the last few years as one of the possible alternative energy sources for road transportation. But I believe that the technology, it has not shown to be the promising technology for road transportation. So I am excited to be here with you today, and it will be interesting to hear the views of Tony about the barriers of hydrogen and how we can address them in a sustainable way to facilitate the uptake of hydrogen vehicles over the UK.
Great, thanks both. Tony, you may as well kick us off with cost.
So, yeah, fuel cell electric vehicles are considerably more expensive than battery electric vehicles, but that is due to the lack of economies of scale. With the right economies of scale, most of the studies indicate that in the next 10 years, heavy-duty fleets running on fuel cells will be cost competitive with internal combustion engines and battery electric vehicles as well. So the fact that they are more expensive is something temporary. With higher economies of scale, buses, for example, could reach cost parity in the next 3 years or so. Also, the importance of hydrogen is as well in relation to the role that it can play for the UK industrial strategy. The market of hydrogen in the UK can be around 28 billion pounds per year. Worldwide, it's estimated that it can be around 380 billion. So potentially, hydrogen can be a cost-efficient solution. Overall, if we look at the whole energy system and the different places where hydrogen could work, like for example, the use of hydrogen in heating, or the cost of the use of hydrogen in industry, these alternative uses in other segments will make that the synergy will reduce the cost of hydrogen use in transport.
Mm.
Also, because hydrogen has different pathways and different feedstock and so on, costs can continue reducing in the coming years.
Okay, so I will start by saying that I am pleased that you said that hydrogen vehicles are more expensive than battery electric vehicles, about 2 times more expensive, and about 3 times more expensive than an equivalent diesel or conventional vehicle. And so, and it's true that hydrogen vehicles were introduced a few years ago, and definitely economies of scales will play an important role. But the technology, implementation of the technology hasn't been successful over the last few years. And I can't see how this will change over the next few years. I mean, back in early 2000s, the EU were expecting about 5% of all fuel transports to be hydrogen, but this hasn't been achieved so far. And I can't see how is that possible without the necessary refueling infrastructure across the whole UK or in Europe in general. And so this has, of course, an impact on costs, because it's not only about the extra capital cost which is needed for hydrogen vehicles, but it's also the operating costs and the cost for the charging, for the infrastructure, for the refueling infrastructure. Mm. And at the moment, you need electricity to produce hydrogen. And hydrogen is more expensive than electricity. So I can't see how in the future hydrogen will be a more cost competitive solution for road transportation.
Mm. Well, you can use curtail energy to produce hydrogen. You can use steam methane or steam methane reformation. You can use biomass gasification. You can use nuclear power plants for the thermosplitting of the water. You can use biological pathways using cyanobacteria. There are many ways of producing hydrogen. Electrolysis is one of them, not the only one.
Yes, electrolysis is one of them, but in a future green economy, then hydrogen has to be produced by electrolysis. I agree with you that there are a variety of methods to produce hydrogen, and at the moment, 95% of all hydrogen over the globe is produced by steam methane. That method. The problem with that method is that it produces a lot of carbon. So if you want to have a sustainable production of hydrogen, you need to adopt carbon storage systems, which are quite expensive. And for that reason, it doesn't make the solution or the method to produce hydrogen a cost competitive alternative in comparison to other methods. And the thing is that I was just trying to remember your other point, which was about electrolyzers and using renewable energy sources. But I've seen studies from the Committee on Climate Change, which says that, okay, electrolyzers directly connected to renewable energy sources may have some potential in the future, but this is just for local applications. It's not the technology that it can be used across the whole UK and produce hydrogen in such quantities that it can be used for the road transport sector in the UK?
Well, I agree that we need steam methane reforming to generate enough hydrogen to power the UK fleet in significant numbers. I agree with that, but you can use carbon capture and storage and utilization. You can reuse that CO2 for higher value chemicals. So it's not all the all the carbon stored and buried. It can be reused to produce different chemicals. Looking at the cost as well, every pound spent in the hydrogen supply chain generates 2.5 pounds in total economic activity. So that is something to be considered. And you talk about the cost of battery. Well, once the public starts to mass adopt these technologies, we will see what prices batteries reach. At the moment, I can tell you that last week, the cost of copper was $7,000 per ton. We will see what happened with cobalt. We will see what happened with lithium in the coming years. By the way, the reserves of lithium and cobalt are quite limited, not enough at this point to power the whole need for the automotive sector worldwide.
Tony,
Okay.
talking about these critical materials, do you want to mention anything more on the critical materials that are needed for these batteries and the sort of social aspect of that?
Yes. So when we consume batteries, we need certain minerals. We need cobalt, we need lithium, we need nickel, we need different materials. Those are found in very specific areas. So that leads to some geopolitical tensions. It's similar what happens nowadays with the oil. It will happen in the near future with critical materials. Those are found only in a few regions around the world. So that is the first issue. In terms of energy security, fuel cells are more promising than battery electric vehicles. Then there are the social dimension of mining some of those minerals. In some of those areas, they are in wars for decades. They are using child labor. So, it's something that needs to be considered. We need to move to a new battery chemistry. Then we have the environmental dimension of mining those materials, because some of those are mined in areas where there is not much water. For example, lithium is mined in the Atacama Desert in South America. There is not much water, but it's being used to mine lithium. And there are mining operations that are not too sustainable and environmentally friendly. Then we have as well the issue with the end of life of those batteries. At the moment, can be reused, but they are so low value that they are not being recycled at the moment.
Sure.
Yeah. And yes, a lot of points over there again, but I think I will start from the energy security aspect that you mentioned. And so my understanding is that at the moment the UK is relying on gas import from other countries, and studies have shown that if we want to have hydrogen for the entire heavy goods vehicles transport sector, so specifically for long haul operations, then the imports will increase up to 60%, and that will be mainly from Qatar and Russia, which imposes a significant risk on the energy security of the country. So that was a comment about the energy security. The other one, it's about the materials and the critical materials for batteries. I totally agree with you. That's correct. But I've seen a few reports, specifically one from UN, which says that, yes, indeed, some materials which are used for batteries come from specific countries, but UN recommends that those should be something like an opportunity for those countries to build processing plants and refineries that will add value and possibly jobs within the country. So this is not a limitation, but this is an opportunity. But at the same time, we've seen that, as you said, new battery technologies are coming into the market all the time. And very recently, Tesla has delivered a new vehicle, the Tesla 3 Model 3 vehicle with the China version, which has a battery which is cobalt-free. And so the dependencies on those critical materials are reducing and reducing. And so I believe that it won't be a major issue in the future, having in mind that the EU has already mandated that half of the batteries should be recyclable over the next few years. And that reduces the need for critical materials and, of course, life cycle emissions.
Doros, I'm going to cut in there for the sake of time. I'm going to just try and ask you both to try and summarize in about 2 sentences take-home message to the audience on each of these technologies.
I must cheat. So I have to come back to Doros with something. Not all the, number one, we don't have enough power capacity at the moment for electrify the whole fleet. Number two, not all the electricity comes from renewables at the moment. So one of the main ways of generating electricity is via integrated gasification combined cycle. So the point that you make about energy security, well, still stands for battery electric vehicles because you need the gas from Qatar to generate that electricity to power those vehicles.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm not going to say anything at this stage because I can see Olivia that she's shouting at me. So, so for me, what I would say is that battery electric vehicles seems to be the main solution for decarbonization over the next few years. I can see that it will be the main solution for specifically for urban deliveries, because the batteries, the technology of the battery has been, let me say it differently. So the battery electric vehicles today can be the main solution for urban deliveries because the size of the battery is at acceptable level, payloads, compromises, it's not a major problem. And due to air quality requirements, I can see that battery electric vehicles is the solution, will be the main solution on the roads of the UK over the next few years.
Right.
At the moment, some of the long-haul operations are still under questioning. But as I said at the beginning, new technologies can be used, technologies which are ready to scale today, like electric road systems, and of course, with new battery technologies coming into the market, more and more operations will be electrified. So that was my main conclusion.
Thank you. And Tony?
Well, I agree with everything Doros has said. But I would add as well that hydrogen will find niche applications where battery electric powertrains are not feasible. For example, in the transportation of food deliveries with multi-temperature compartments where you need transport refrigeration units, that there is no way that in the next few years you will find feasible solutions for that type of operation. Hydrogen will enjoy from synergies from other sectors that will lead to considerable cost reductions. And hydrogen can play a role not only on road haulage, that is probably, I agree with him, that it will be the main area more than probably cars. Also, we need to consider what is the attitude of the consumers versus this range anxiety and recharging and the availability of recharging points and so on. But hydrogen can play a role on aviation as a liquid hydrogen. It can play an important role on decarbonization of shipping with hydrogen, ammonia, liquid hydrogen organic compounds, and also in rail where the cost of infrastructure and the passenger factors, passenger capacity factors are too low to justify the investment on electrification.
Great, thank you both. So just to wrap that up, we've discussed the strengths and the weaknesses from social, economic and environmental perspectives. And as we all say at TRL, we really believe that the development and adoption of both of these technologies within the UK is the best chance we have of reaching this net zero greenhouse gas emissions target by 2050. At TRL, we've got experience of managing trials of hydrogen vehicles and are supporting the UK government's Hydrogen Task Force commitment to roll out 100 hydrogen refuelling stations by 2025. The results from our work with Innovate UK, on the left, the low emission freight trials, are to be published within the month. So if you do want to see some of the hard data comparisons of these alternative fuel sources, then let us know. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.